Hi there and welcome to my video. Today I'm going to show you how I make a mixed media artwork from these collage papers that I made in a book. You are free to get your own book. I made it on Amazon. You can find it in this link right here, and I'll put one in the link below as well. So these are some papers I made on my jelly plate, and I love using supplies that I make myself. So you can kind of see a flip through if you want to check out some of the papers right here. And I was just kind of looking for more of a fall motif because I have been dreaming about the fall lately. And in New Jersey, it's starting to get a little cooler. I've just had enough of the summer, so I'm dreaming of those fall cool nights. So I will put a link up there and in the description if you're interested in the book. But you can also see some other papers here I'm going to use from my jelly prints. I was just trying to think of a different kind of color palette because I often use like bright colors and I wanted to challenge myself to use something different. Today I'm using this 140-pound watercolor paper. I find it's a great substrate to put a lot of different media on, and it takes glue and water and paint really well. So I often use this paper because it's a little thicker. I'm just kind of ripping up the pages and trying to see how they all fit together. Not that there's any really right way that they fit together, but I like to just kind of play with it like a puzzle first. There's really no rhyme or reason. I just kind of go with my gut and see what feels right to me and how all the pieces fit together as well as the colors. So I do put them down with satin medium. This is a Liquitex satin medium. I chose satin because I don't love a totally matte finish and I also don't love a glossy finish. So the satin's right in the middle. And I do put a layer on top of all the papers as well because it just kind of prepares the papers for the next layer of media. So I'm using a craft brush and it's nothing fancy. I often end up leaving my brushes in water and they get ruined. So I don't buy anything really expensive because I don't want to feel bad about how sometimes I have to transition from being painter to being mom or wife or worker. So I just kind of let myself off the hook with that. So I'm just putting the pages down and not really thinking too hard about where they're going and just kind of following my gut and, seeing how it all shows up. I feel like this part of the process is very intuitive and it's different for everyone. These are some of the colors that I'm using, like a bronze color, the Payne's gray, which I love. I put a little of flesh with that. It's kind of made like a gray color with the flesh. And I'm also using the light olive green. When I put this gray color down, I didn't totally love it. I feel like it kind of threw off my whole blue vibe. So I went back in with this kind of bronze color and I didn't love that either. So I knew at this point I was approaching that part of the process where I feel like I might be starting to ruin it. So I just kept going and I used the stencil to remove some of the paint so that I could create a little bit of a pattern underneath. So I'm just trying to cover up a little of that gray and start again with a different color. I love making layers and using water and drips and just kind of letting that first part go. But at this point, I was feeling like, oh, geez, I had a rough start. So just kept moving paint around the paper and didn't think too hard about it. When I get a little too interested in how I think it's looking or how I think it's going, then I throw myself off and then kind of throws me off base for the whole thing. So I just let it go. And this is a gray green. I wanted to infuse some color back into it, not so doldrummy gray. And I love using a palette knife to put paint down on the paper because it often can offer some interesting shapes. That's some parchment, and I just wanted to lighten it up a little bit with it. But you can kind of see how it creates like a little bit of a web and blocks of color. And I just like how the palette knife behaves on the paper. And it's an easy way to get paint down real fast. So then I go back in with a brush and just kind of soften some areas. I don't want it to be quite so rigid. And just letting the paint kind of drip around and create lines. A lot of this process is just kind of letting go of expectations and seeing what shows up. So I wanted to add in some more blocks of color. So I wanted to use this stencil that this was the stencil I used for the blue in that corner. So you can kind of see it underneath the parchment color to the right. So I wanted to add this kind of shape back in to bring the two sides together. It's kind of the opposite. You know, it's like bluish on the right side and a little creamy on the left. And then I was starting to add in some different papers on top. When I was going through this, I feel like that corner really stuck out to me. It wasn't really blending with the rest of the papers. So I wanted to add a little buffer on top. Here is the focal point that I chose. It's a little bird, and I printed it on some deli paper. I did fix it with a little spray before I put it down because I didn't want the colors to run all over the place. And I have to be very careful when putting it down because I use an inkjet printer and sometimes the ink can kind of blend with the medium when I put it down. So it's just kind of put it down, not fuss with it, and let it go and let it dry. At this point of the process, I just wanted to start identifying some areas that needed some marks to bring the whole thing together. A lot of times in the process, it can feel like you can see all the different pieces of paper. And these moments of putting down marks and using stencils is where I try to blend it all together so it doesn't feel like a couple of separate areas. So the theme for this was kind of circular. You can see all the different circles, different sizes that I'm putting in, and kind of just adding in some neutral color to blend this lower corner as well as the other areas to bring it all together. I feel like this can often be my favorite part of the process because if I can step away for a little bit and then come back, I am often surprised at how it kind of reveals itself in a different way. So I do take breaks on these videos, and I encourage you to do that as well because it definitely helps to see things with fresh eyes. So I wanted to put a little bit of a border around this bird because I feel like it was starting to get lost in the background colors. So just adding these little dots to bring some accentuation to the centerpiece really helped frame it. And I'm just using a Posca paint marker. It's like a buff off-white color. And I really like using the different size circles. It kind of, I don't know, added a little flair to it. So I'm just using this pen to put in marks all around the paper, and it adds a nice layer to bring it all together. It's like a cohesive type of thing to use a color all around the paper to bring it, I guess, bring it on home. And I do speed these videos up. I mean, I can't possibly work this fast, but I like to kind of show different parts of it so that you could possibly do the same thing or copy what I'm doing and, try to do these little tricks yourself. So I think it's also important to have just some certain shapes that you enjoy in your work. And I really like the circles. I like these half rainbows. And I just like those identifying marks that can kind of finish off a piece. So you can see right here all the little details and how it all came together. I really liked how this one evolved over time. I wasn't sure how it was working, but it really did kind of come together in a nice fall motif to kind of go with how I was feeling. So thanks so much for watching this today and following me along on this journey. I hope to see you again soon.